Welcome to episode 91 of the American Tributaries podcast, where to break out of the bubbles we all live in, we're using modern technology to explore the various currents of people in our great country, kind of like a 21st century Lewis and Clark journey. I'm your host, Michael Whidden, here in Brooklyn, New York, and thank you for joining me in this exploration of America. Today, I'm thrilled to be joined by Robin Mazor, who lives about 5,000 miles west-southwest of me on the island of Kuai in Hawaii, where she is the executive director of the nonprofit Reef Guardians. Robin and I were connected by an old Navy friend of mine, Jordy Harold, who's also her cousin. So thank you to Jordy for connecting us. And thank you, Robin, for joining me today. How are you doing? And could you share a bit of your story?
Hi, Michael. Yes, thanks to Jordy for connecting us. It's really nice to meet you. And a little bit about me. Well, I'm a mermaid. I've known that for most of my life. I'm a little bit different from most people in my family, and it took them a little while to figure it out that I'm a mermaid. Now, I was raised in Indiana, so that might have something to do with it. There's plenty of water in Indiana. And my mom and dad used to take me to Florida every year, so then I got to learn to swim at a young age, and I just basically got prepped for my life as I am now. So yeah, I grew up in Indiana. I loved living there. I loved the outdoors, nature, the land, the ocean. I have always been very connected to both the water and the land and the sky. And so I'm very blessed to live here in Hawaii. I moved out here after college, and
What
I got to
what
work.
brought you there?
I directly got to work.
what had you move to Hawaii versus Florida or any place else?
Oh, well, I was with my friend from college. We've been friends since we were teenagers, and we were on our way to Asia. We wanted to go to Asia. She had already been there. She was a year ahead of me in college. And so I thought that would be really amazing to go travel and explore Asia, but we didn't have any funds to do it. So we decided we'd either go to Southern Arizona, Southern California, or Hawaii because she'd been here before, and that's what we chose. And
Wow.
we got it. We worked. We got enough money to come here, and then we both still live here, and we're both still best friends.
Wow. Amazing. Um, so for me, I mean, most people, I would imagine just think of Hawaii as Hawaii, but obviously there's different islands. Is there a different like vibe or character to each of the islands?
Oh, sure. Every island is unique and definitely has their own community lives.
Mm-hmm.
So every island has similarities, and we all have relatives and on the different islands, or many of us do, but every island is its own, has its
Yeah.
own communities and its own concerns and relationships.
How many, can I ask, like, do you know roughly like how many people live on Kauai?
So it's growing.
Mm-hmm.
Somewhere like around 75,000 or
Okay.
so. I haven't checked lately.
Okay.
Something like that. But then we have a lot of off-island visitors as well. At least like
Mm-hmm.
20,000 a day, I think.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Is it easy, like as a Hawaiian, is it easy to go between the islands, or is it just as difficult as it would be if you were a tourist?
It's the same,
Yeah.
basically. It used to cost $25
Uh-huh. To fly
to
or
Oahu from
ferry?
Kauai or from
Uh,
Maui to, you know.
how much does it cost now?
Oh, I just did a round trip. It was 182
Oh,
to
wow.
Oahu. I went over for a conference.
Okay.
It was a great conference. It was the Hawaii After School Alliance. Hawaii
Mm-hmm.
After School Alliance. It was an
Okay.
amazing conference. There are a lot of people who care a lot about other people
Mm-hmm.
in my world.
Mm-hmm.
And it was amazing to be in that group of people from all over the state. And
And
yeah, we actually got an award for
oh, well,
that. We got
congratulations.
an
What was the
Aloha
award for?
Award
Uh-huh.
for unity and harmony and bringing people and the aina, the land, and the kai, the ocean, together.
Mm-hmm.
in harmony.
Wow. Well,
For,
congratulations.
thank you for engaging people and helping people to grow.
Hmm. When how long have you been involved with Reef Guardians?
We it started in 2015, and
Okay.
I've been involved since the beginning.
Okay. And had you done other things relating to, I guess, like, protecting the oceans and the waters and stuff before that?
Uh, as far as protecting and only in educating kids,
Hmm.
that was my focus before. I used to be a school teacher and
Okay.
a museum director and a
Oh
social
wow.
worker. So, in all of those realms, I had the opportunity to protect. I did a lot of protecting
Yeah.
and also I've always been concerned about the natural environment here. So, by being involved with Reef Guardians and putting my focus on protecting the Aina, then I've really grown into this position and brought in a lot of people who know quite a lot about it, and together we're doing a lot to make some changes and to make a
Hmm.
difference.
Okay. And Kes, what is Reef Guardians like a mission? What are you trying to do? And what's like, where would you like the organization or the I don't know, the reefs or nature to be in like 10 or 20 years?
Well, our vision is a thriving, clean, abundant reef. And here in Hawaii, we say the aina is that which feeds us. And it's the aina and the kai. The aina is the land, the kai is the sea, but together it's the aina, we say, that which feeds us. So it's really important that it's a sustainable environment, that it's in harmony and balanced. And that takes some work because what we do on land directly affects what happens in the ocean. And so some of the practices that we do create a lot of stress in the ocean. Yeah, pollution and sediment and taking too many animals
Mm.
out of season or just too many. Or, there's a lot of education that has to be
Mm.
done, and we partner with other organizations and with our state Department of Aquatic Resources, and we have the most amazing education programs that make
Yeah.
everybody happy, and they learn a lot, and they want to be reef protectors too,
Mm.
and they go to those programs.
Wow. So, like, what is? I mean, and this is more just out of like total ignorance on my part, but like, what do the reefs do? Like, how do they benefit? Like, how do they impact the people on the land? How do they impact the land? What's the ecosystem is like a codependence of why care about the reefs?
Well, truly, I mean, in a basic way, the reefs are where the waves hit first. So if we have reefs that are strong, then they can stop the intensity of the waves coming towards the shore. So the waves don't come onto the land and erode the land. And this is a very real problem here. It's starting to show itself more and more with houses falling into the ocean and roads. And yeah, we really need thriving reefs because yeah, we all know everyone's talking about sea rise, but the reef also rises because the new reef builds on the old reef. The living corals build on top of the structure of that the corals of the past have created, and so it keeps rising higher and higher if it's allowed to thrive.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one way that the reef is important to our well-being here.
Mm-hmm.
And also, there's, like I talked about before, there are a lot of animals that provide food for people. A lot of people fish or collect animals. And also limu. Limu is seaweed or algae.
Mm-hmm.
Algae. And people collect that too and eat it.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to keep our ocean sustainable
Yeah.
so we can
Now,
have, food. We're an island. We're in the middle of the ocean. We're the farthest away place in the whole planet from other land masses. So it's
Is
really
that right?
important. Yeah, for real.
I mean, I know you. I think about Hawaii being in the middle of nowhere, but I didn't really never kind of realized how isolated it is.
Yep. Just
It's
check it
kind of a
out.
little miracle in the middle of the Pacific.
It is. It is a miracle.
Wow. When you were talking before, you mentioned both coral and reef. Can you explain either the difference or the similarity, or the fact that maybe they are the same?
Okay. Coral is an animal called a polyp. And generally, it's really, 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 really tiny. Like
Mm-hmm.
you, to see it, you need a microscope, really, to see the animal, or a camera that's got a little microscope thing. That's what I do. I take pictures and then I go back and look at them. I can see all the little polyps. So they're
Mm-hmm.
animals, and they have inside of their bodies, they grow algae, and the algae photosynthesizes and it feeds the coral. So here we have coral with living algae inside it, and then the coral takes the seawater and it excretes a substance that it builds its little home. So it's kind of like, you probably remember making a little clay pot when you were a little kid, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have this little clay pot, and that's kind of what the coral does. It makes this little
Mm-hmm.
pot for it to live in. And it
Mm-hmm.
needs that protection because there are fish that love to eat coral. So they have to be able to contract their tentacles and stay ducked down in their little cubicle. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But they are connected. Coral are connected to the ones next to them. They have tissue that connects
Mm-hmm.
across. And that way, if there's coral in one section that their algae is getting plenty of light and they're getting lots of sugars, they can feed the other ones that might be in the shade at that time.
Wow,
So yeah, they're a colony.
that's very
They're a
holistic.
colony. Yeah, coral's really amazing. So coral is an animal. It's somewhat of a plant because the plant lives with the coral inside it, symbiotically, and then, or mutualistically, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then it's also a rock, a mineral. And you can find, so people find pieces of coral on the beach. That's the rock without the living being or its best friend, the algae.
It's kind of like the shell.
Yeah,
Like, okay, okay, cool. Well, thank you. I've lived 53 years, and for this moment at least, I think I understand.
yeah. So that's what coral is. And the reef is what it builds. So it
Okay.
builds this humongous structure. Coral builds the largest home of any animal on the planet
Mm-hmm.
over time. And but there's other reefs. I mean, you can have reefs made of rock. You can have artificial reefs. So reefs are structures that the animals are growing on or that are out
Mm-hmm.
in the water,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a reef.
So how has it been since you started Reef Gardens? Have you been able to? I guess do you feel like you're making an impact? Has it been difficult, easy?
Oh, we're definitely making an impact. There's no question about it. We're educating lots of kids and families, and they're helping. They help with other nonprofits too. They help in beach cleanups, and people go out in the ocean. They join those efforts. They go out, even diving. These kids all are snorkelers. All the kids that come to our camp swim, snorkel, and then a lot of them go on to scuba. And so, and they're, of course, they're community minded and they want to help. So we help direct them to other organizations where they could go out and clean up the
Mm-hmm.
reefs and the ocean and the beaches, the streams. So
Mm-hmm.
people get involved like that, or some people go on to college,
Mm-hmm.
and become marine biologists. We've had a number of our students do that, make that choice. And then other good consequences, we are raising community awareness of coral. We bring in scientists who teach about the coral. We have water testing programs that we're operating right now, and people are contributing to that, which is really important because we have to know what's going on in order to fix it. So we're doing that, and we're working with different agencies and helping them in their missions to educate and to help people understand that the rules are there for their own protection, and we have to think about the whole ecosystem, not just what's going to go on the table or get sold immediately, right?
Mm-hmm.
So people, we've been having an impact like that.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, we have a new C school that is being distributed now. It's online, and people anywhere. You don't have to be on this island. You could be anywhere in the state, or you could be anywhere in the world, and you can access it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's called Ke Kula Kai Online Sea School. So basically, in Hawaiian, it means sea school, the sea school. So it's Ke Kula Kai Online Sea School. It's 15 units about how to be a scientist, Kanaka Connection, which basically is about the Hawaiian understanding and perspective and stories that relate to the various units in the program. And there's lots of units on the various kind of animals, invertebrates and sharks and rays and turtles and bony fish and all kinds of animals, plus how
Mm-hmm.
the islands were formed, how the Hawaiians got here and what happened when they got here. And just, it's a wonderful, really enjoyable program, mostly made of short videos and prompts to go out and to be involved in conservation efforts, whether alone or with groups, and to also enjoy yourself making art projects that relate. And it's just a lot of fun for kids and families. So it's available. It's on, you can find it on our website, reefguardians.org. So people can write that down, reefguardians.org, and they can access it. And there's another program that we have available too, and it's free, and people can download it right now. It's available on the Apple and the Google stores. Get it on your phone. It's called Hawaii Sea Life. And it is an app that has hundreds of animals in it. And you can find out all about these animals, about their habits and their Hawaiian names and their scientific names. And you can search in different ways. Let's say you saw a red fish out there. You can go in and click the red button, and all the fish that are red will come up. And
Oh
I
wow.
think there's other clue filters, maybe by where they live, maybe they live on the coral, or they're bottom dwellers, or lots of different ways that you can identify them and learn more about them and connect with them. Because the whole idea is that we protect what we love, and that's how come we know that we have an impact, because we know that the people who are involved with us fall in love with the ocean. And if they aren't already, but then we
Mm-hmm.
spark it, and then they want to protect it. So that's what we're about. And we also, so we do research, we do restoration. We got a project on Maui going that we're real excited about. It's a restoration project. There were a group of people over there, and they asked us to help them get established. And they have systematically taken out plants that are non-native. Some of them are invasive and non-native, and they have been growing native plants and replanting them and cleaning up the water. This there's a what's maybe a spring or a stream. It's a part of the wetlands, and unfortunately in Hawaii, especially on Maui and Oahu, a lot of the islands, the wetlands have been developed by housing and parking lots and things like that. So this is one area that hasn't been developed like that, and so they're trying to restore it. And so we've played a very important role in that, and we're we have our eyes on some other projects here on
Hmm.
Kauai that we would like to do too along those lines. Yeah.
So, how do you deal with like the development? If I mean, it's I imagine as alluring as Hawaii is, not everybody's necessarily coming there to live, but there's always going to be that draw. So as more and more people come, do you just have to discourage them, or can you like become more almost like urban and say like we're not going to develop more, but we're just going to have to develop upward?
Yeah, well, that's a big issue in Hawaii across all the islands, the development, because there are um, there's a lot that people have learned over the years, and people don't want to make the same mistakes that we have in the past. But then there's, of course, the push for development and the need for more housing. So there's a tension,
Hmm.
and it's political, and people are actively engaged in that every day here. It's it's really it's an important fight. It's really an important fight, and it would be really nice if people who wanted to develop could embrace the care that people have here and make choices in their planning that wouldn't compromise the environment, especially in the areas that are really sensitive, like the wetlands and
Hmm.
the near shore environments and the areas near the streams. And, you know, that's the dream, is that everybody would come together to protect the land and still find a way that we could all live here and be sustainable.
Yeah, guess that's always the challenge, probably anywhere really.
Mm-hmm.
Um, um, how much is of your I guess in protecting reefs? How much is that endangers the reefs? Um, originating like relatively locally, like from Hawaii, and how much of it is coming from ocean currents that could be bringing things from Asia or America or Australia or whatever? Like what's
Well, as far as what washes ashore, the problems on our beaches, that comes from other places mostly.
really?
Oh, yeah. They're strong currents, and it every day brings a bunch of plastic nets and all kinds of stuff.
Wow.
It's really a problem. But we also have to educate people here. That's part of our work, because you have to think that what you do in your yard, especially if you live by a stream, well, everything flows to the sea. So if we have a lot of rain, if we have storms, and the yard there, the water comes flowing down, all that's going to wash out into the ocean, and that
Right.
happens here. It's
Right.
yeah. And it would be anything. It would be the chemicals that you use on your yard. It would be, that's why we help educate people on using and on good practices, on being able to keep what you're putting into your yard in your yard,
Hmm.
and also to use chemicals that are not going to hurt the environment. Some
Yeah.
say organic, but I mean, even too much organic fertilizer could be a bad thing. So you just have to be what we call akamai. That means wise,
Hmm.
wise through experience, and make good choices.
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously it's a battle that you constantly have to be. I guess you're constantly engaged in. But I gotta say, from looking at where you are from Brooklyn, yeah, I can hear the birds chirping in the
Yeah,
background, and
yeah,
it's a very lush, lush background. So I can see why you'd want to protect it.
right. But you guys are by the water too. And
We
what
are,
you guys do on land directly impacts what happens in your waters.
yeah.
And when I go over there, I always imagine, I do this everywhere, it's my habit,
Hmm.
what it looked like before, like in the natural world, what the natural world looked like before all the people came and put in all the concrete and, you know, chemicals and stuff that run down
Yeah.
into the
Yeah.
ocean and the rivers and yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in New York City, I'd say over the last 20 years, there's definitely been. I mean, they've become. I mean, it used to be more of a port city, and over the last 20 years, the shores have been more like kind of, I guess, reclaimed by, I guess, more for everyday use, which has been good. We have like the Billion Oyster Project. I know that's here. I don't know how many oysters they've gotten, but that's the I guess their goal is a billion oysters, and I do know that like in New York, maybe it was 100 years ago, 120 years ago, they used to eat the oysters from the waters here, which
That's
you certainly
right.
would not do now.
Absolutely. And the oysters, you know what their role is in the ocean, right? Do you know their
No,
role?
I do not.
They filter the water, so they clean it. They clean it with their bodies. So oysters are incredibly important to keeping an ecosystem clean.
Hmm. Then how, like, the I read this book, braiding sweetgrass.
Great book.
And yeah, and I guess she talks about, I guess, the idea of how you, as a human being who is going to eat animals or is going to need to use the wood or whatever. And it sounds like so trite, but like you talk about that kind of idea of being like kind of connected, but it's also just kind of, it's almost, and it sounds really simple, but that just the idea of like mindfulness and understanding that you know like, I guess, the interconnectedness and the respect. And I like that idea of not like kind of turning everything into like a human being, but just kind of understanding that if you do chop this tree down, respect what it's giving to you, not just treat it as a commodity. And I think like when the farther we get from nature, the more it's easy to just think about, oh, this is just a jar of peanut butter. Like you don't think about that there were peanuts and it came from a farmer who worked to harvest the peanuts and it grew from ground. Like you're just so removed. And I think even in that book she talks at one point about trying to have her mindfulness when she went to the mall, and it was just impossible. But I think to what you're saying with balance is at least the best we can all do is to be mindful of our activities more and thinking about how they impact the natural world, because it is our only world and it does impact us. When you treat it poorly, it bounces back to you.
Yeah. We, on our shirts for our kids camp, our kikis, our children's camp, it says Malama Ike Kai. It means to care for the ocean. So it's the underlying thought. It's what we build on is that care for the environment,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
everything goes from there. And in Hawaiian practice, it's called kilo, and what that is observing. And basically, it's using your senses. I mean, you could take it to the next level and kilo with microscopes and things like that. But
Mm-hmm.
it's observing. It's just being aware. It's being aware of the elements so that you know how to live in the environment. That it's also being aware of others and being aware of your own self. And yeah, what you said, mindfulness. It
Mm-hmm.
is mindfulness, and it's a good platform. It's a really good base to live your life from. Because then it does. I mean, when you look, you'll see how much contributes to your well-being, right? If you pay attention. And so there's a lot for us to be grateful for. I mean, at every moment, right? So thank you
Yeah.
for inviting me here today.
Thank you. Um, you know, one of the things, and like in New York, I think that when people come to New York City, they see certain slivers of living in New York, and I think what they don't see is they actually don't understand, and this happens when people also just see things in the news about New York, is they have no grasp of like what it is like to live in New York City and how like it's much better than what you might see in the news, but it's also different and we have our own challenges. And you could be a tourist and go to the museums and go to the Statue of Liberty, but you're not going to really understand what it's like to be a New Yorker. So I ask you, as being a Hawaiian, what somebody might visit Hawaii, but they must be, I'm sure they must be missing something. So what is it that do you think, like, tourist visitors just wouldn't get exposed to, that they wouldn't understand about the Hawaiian existence? And maybe you've already talked about it, I don't know, but
Well, it might be the way that people here relate to the environment. One of our challenges is people come here and they walk all over the reef. And
mm,
I mean, actually, there are people here who do walk on the reef. They walk out there in order to fish. That is been a practice from long ago, and it there's a debate about that, whether knowing what we do now is a good thing. And we've actually seen fishermen go out there and step on vana, which are sea urchins, and have to get
oh
rescued
wow.
because it hurts and they can't walk
Yeah.
and they can't get back in. And
Mm,
but there are consequences, natural consequences for
yeah.
walking on the reef. But
Mm,
yeah, it's when you have 1 million visitors coming and more than half of them visit the ocean and go out there and walking on the reef, it's not a good thing. Because coral, remember we said coral is this big, the animals, you walk
yeah.
on it, they're like an ant. What happens if you step on an ant?
Yeah.
Bye bye,
Does.
ant.
Yeah.
So if you step on the coral, you're gonna kill the coral. You could break the pieces off of the colony. And it just, there's a lot of things. And people come here and they fish,
Mm,
and then they don't eat the fish, or they take the fish too
uh,
small, or
uh,
then so people need to just come and maybe just observe how we live and seek information. And that's why our app is really good, because the app, not only does it have all these many animals that they'll be seeing when they come to the ocean, but it has tips on being a good visitor to the reef,
mm,
and also being good back in your own place, like using, of course, everybody's talking about it, using non-plastic for your your water
mm,
containers. And there's just a lot of things that we can do. Buy locally produced food. Visitors can
that,
do that, and they do. They love that. They come to our markets.
mm.
That's a nice thing.
That's. I mean, is it easy or hard to buy local if you're living in Kauai?
Easy.
No, well, I asked because I know that there are certain things that certainly grow very well there, but could you actually sustain? Yeah, obviously I guess the native Hawaiians did before that, so I guess it's a silly question. But for an American, like a New Yorker who moves to Hawaii, I mean, there obviously has to be things that do have to be shipped there.
Ninety
That's
percent of the food coming to Hawaii
mm,
is, I mean, that's where we get 90% of our food from outside Hawaii. 90%.
okay. Wow.
Yeah, yeah. But there is a growing movement. I actually was part of it when I taught at the college here, worked for the university to help set up and teach people to grow food in their yard. You were talking about people not knowing where their food comes from, and that was part of my program. I worked with parents who were in the WIC program, which is a subsidized food program. And they would come, I'd give them coupons to go shop at the farmer's market. And I also I had some people come and do cooking shows and cook with the food that was grown on Kauai. And
Mm,
that was really fun for all the people who came to the market. And then we'd go over to the little farm gardens over at the college, which is just adjacent. We just walk over there. And the kids would be able to pull up carrots and see, oh, that's where a carrot comes from? Really?
mm, yeah.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool to have that direct connection. And yeah, people here grow food in their yards. I've always
Do you
grown
grow
food.
anything?
I
What do you
always,
grow?
oh gosh, well, it depends on the season. But I grow lots of greens, all different kind of greens. and I grow tomatoes and beans, and I grow a kind of plant. I try to grow perennials because it's easier.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a leafy plant that's in the hibiscus family. It's kind of in the same okra family, and it grows really well in Polynesia and Micronesia. We call it edible hibiscus, but it has a lot of different names.
Mm-hmm.
And you just stick it in the ground and it grows
Uh,
into a bush, and then you just take the leaves and chop them up and cook them, and it's like spinach or
mm,
different kind of greens that people eat.
wow.
So yeah, you can grow almost everything here, really. Squash, corn, really it just depends on how ambitious or how much space you have.
Mm.
But anybody can grow more food than they need in their own yard. Fruit trees. This tree out here, that's a ulu. It's a breadfruit tree.
Oh wow. Okay. I'm not even sure I know what breadfruit is. To be
Well, I
honest,
don't think it grows in Brooklyn.
it doesn't grow. I haven't seen it in Brooklyn either. At
No,
the
but I think other trees could, like apples,
Mhm.
could grow there, and
Oh yeah, I know apples. Sure,
pears,
yeah,
and
yeah,
plums, right?
hmm yeah.
Yeah,
Apples. That's a big thing in October. You go pumpkin picking, or you go apple picking, or you do both.
yeah,
So we do get those, but no breadfruit.
yeah, yeah.
um, can it? So, are you thinking about like all the wonders of Hawaii? I mean, you are, I guess, in the middle of the ocean. You have there's always every time there's an earthquake, there seems to be at least you see mention of like tsunamis. So you've always got that, and then you I think does every island have an active volcano?
No, not
Okay,
active.
okay, but you're living a very active volcano zone, and I guess so what's that like? Have you ever had to um worry about a tsunami or a volcano or
Yeah, we've had tsunami warnings here
Mhm,
on Kauai and across the state, and the Big Island definitely deals with the volcano, Madame Pele.
mhm.
It's ha- right now, flowing right now.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, it is. That's what built the islands, and it is
Mhm.
building the Big Island right now. And another
Maybe that's what
island, there's
maybe
another
that's what
one
the
coming up.
developers are relying on.
uh, yeah, I don't know. I don't know about that,
No.
but we have hurricanes.
Oh, really?
Yeah, hurricanes are big storm,
Mhm,
and they are devastating.
mhm.
Yeah.
Does that happen like each year or just periodically?
No, thank goodness, no. I've
Okay.
been in two major hurricanes,
Mhm.
and houses get destroyed, and power lines fall down, and yeah, we don't have electricity for months and months.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard enough here. I mean, there might be more people impacted, but you have the whole continent connected to you. You're in the middle of the ocean.
Yeah. Well, some people do leave.
Mhm.
Yeah, the planes will come and take people.
When we actually had plans to go to Maui when the fires happened, and we
Mm.
decided that wasn't a good time. Like not even just not it wasn't a good time to go to Hawaii at all because if I'm sure that if something's happening in Maui, it's impacting and like there were just bigger things that people had to be worried about than tourists arriving. So we didn't go. But when something happens in one island, does it impact the other islands? Like something at that scale?
Yeah, that was extremely traumatic. And
Hmm.
people all over the state were mobilizing to help
Yeah.
by sending different things, clothes and food and money, especially money,
Hmm.
but everything. Yeah, and provide housing and
Okay.
support.
Hmm.
Yeah, it was really traumatic. I mean, it still is. It's
Really?
still something that people are grappling with every day.
Have you been there since the fires?
No.
Okay. And the Kauai is how big of an island is it compared to the others, like size wise?
Kauai is smaller than Maui and Oahu and the Big Island. It's bigger than Molokai, and
Mm-hmm.
it's bigger than Lanai and Niihau.
Mm-hmm. Wait, there's an island called Niihau.
Yeah, Niihau.
Well, because Kauai is in Japanese means cute.
Oh.
So when I was reading, because I wasn't sure how to say the name of the island, and I looked it up and said Kauai. So I'm like, okay, I can say that because I studied Japanese for a year, and Kauai is cute.
Okay.
So
Hawaii's
and
cute, but that's
yeah,
not the roots of its name.
no, 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 I know that's the different roots, but it coincidentally it means cute in Japanese.
Okay.
And ni hao is like how are you in Mandarin.
Oh, right.
So
Yeah.
it's interesting. so um so we were talking about like your what you grow. Is there like a do you have like a favorite dish or like you know what is like a favorite Hawaiian food?
Oh, Hawaiian food would be lau lau,
Uh-huh.
probably. But that's a pretty intensive kind of dish to make. And so
Mm-hmm.
people really like it when people offer it for sale at the
Mm-hmm.
markets and fairs and things. And it's always bought up really quick. And people
Uh-huh.
have, when they do fundraisers, they do lau lau sales.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What is Lao Lao?
Oh, it's well, it is a dish that has something yummy on the inside, like it could be a meat like chicken and or pork or maybe some kind of vegetables and things. And then it's covered by taro or kalo leaves. And
Okay.
then that's covered by tea leaves and then it's cooked. And often it can be cooked in an imu, which is a pit in the ground that is filled with hot rocks and then the food is then it's covered and the food is put on put food is put on top and then it's covered and then it roasts bakes in there.
Mm-hmm.
But lau lau, people make lau lau other ways too.
Mm-hmm.
And
Okay.
poi, what about poi? You know about poi, right?
I don't know about poi either.
Oh, okay. So poi is also from kalo or
Uh-huh.
taro, and it's the root,
Uh-huh.
it's the corm, and it's made from that. And it's the corm is cooked, and then it's um, made into a paste and fermented.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really good for you.
Mm. Is that like yogurty? Is it like yogurt?
No, not well.
I have no.
No, because yogurt
I
yogurt's a milk product.
right, right. Yeah, no, this is yeah. So it's taro.
Yeah.
I love taro.
You love taro?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Well, I'm married into a Taiwanese family, so there's lots of taro in
Oh,
Taiwanese
yeah.
food.
Well, you know. So taro,
Yeah,
just eating taro is also really prized.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. There's all kinds of taro that's in the Hawaiian Islands too. There's some really, I've had some really yummy Chinese taro
Hmm.
before.
Yeah. Yeah, I have my favorite probably is taro ice cream, but
Uh-huh.
I've had other forms of taro too. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's used here in a lot of things. Bread.
Mhm. Ooh,
Yeah. Yeah.
I can
It's
see
really
that.
good.
Um, so I want to thinking like to go back. Like, so when you moved there, did you have like, were you ever, were you homesick ever? Did you ever think like I can't live here? This is too far removed from what I'm used to, or was it just a natural fit?
When I came here, I was ecstatic.
Oh yeah.
I, I mean, I remember when we started out, I am a mermaid.
Right.
And so I could do everything I wanted to do. I could swim every day in the ocean and the streams, and I could grow food year round. So I'm really into growing food.
Hmm.
So
Okay.
it just really suits me
Hmm.
living here. I love it, and I found lots of ways that I can be of benefit
Mm-hmm.
here. I started out as a social worker. I was a manager of the shelter for victims of family violence.
Mm-hmm.
I did that. But I also was a beekeeper. I became a beekeeper and I grew
Oh wow.
tons of food, so much food, and then the honey. And so we would take it and feed so many people. So many people would come over and then I'd give it to my neighbors, but I still had so much food, I would take it to the farmer's market and sell it at the market.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't, it was just like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, then I got more and more involved. I was a school teacher and I was a museum director of a children's museum here on Kauai.
Oh wow.
And that was a really awesome era. And that brought me back to the mainland. That was really good because I am a traveler and I have traveled a lot over the years and across the world. But that was a different kind of traveling because I visited many cities across the United States and I had with my colleagues I explored the issues of those areas through the way that museums help communities like that. And I saw hundreds of museums. I
Oh
love
wow.
museums. Of course, I was a museum director, but I love learning through museums. I like looking at artifacts and firsthand documents and the Children's Museum. My museum was a children's museum, and the Children's Museum has had a great influence on the world of museums because it's made them more interactive and fun. So, yeah, that was a great part of my life, great era. And yeah, I've been really blessed in my life, in my work life over here. I worked for the university. I was a researcher and an evaluator for a big program, education program all across the state. So once again, I got to travel this time all across the state and meet all kinds
Mm.
of really amazing people doing fabulous things that help other people and industries. And yeah, that was very, very enriching in many ways and helped me to get a bigger and bigger perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Personally, in my life, something that I've done that's kind of unique in a way and interesting is being involved in the Tibetan culture and world.
Oh wow.
So I've been over to Tibet and Bhutan and other places in the Himalayas, and I've worked with the Tibetan community here in Hawaii across the islands, and that has been very enriching. And yeah, another part of me that makes my life deep.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a quite a contrast to be in the Himalayas versus going back home to Hawaii.
Yeah, right. The ocean up to the top of the world.
Yeah. Um, how like so if somebody asks like what's the history of Hawaii? Like I actually really don't know the history. So for for somebody as ignorant as I am, like what's the how would you describe the history of Hawaii?
Well, Hawaii is a nation, and at one point, it became a part of the United States. And the Hawaiian language almost died out. But during the time that I've lived here in Hawaii, the language has come back alive. It's fantastic. And there's Hawaiian language immersion schools all across the state. And the culture is, is being revived. And it's really great to be a part of it and to help this grow because it's meaningful to people. It matters. And so many cultures across the planet have died. They've lost their language and they've died. Most of the old cultures. So that this culture can thrive again in its place is really amazing.
Hmm.
Amazing to be able to witness and be a part of and support.
How I guess I know I guess you can only assume the answer, but like with Hawaii being so far away from any other islands, like what's I mean, what how did people end up on these islands in the middle of the Pacific? Like where do you does they do they know what where they like what particular like other South Pacific islands that people came from or
Yeah, sure. There's been a lot of research into that, and there are different theories. So there are different theories.
mm-hmm,
But coming up from Tahiti is definitely part of the migration here to the Hawaiian Islands. And then people came from other places before that as well.
mm-hmm,
So, um, yeah, it's um, it's something that people study, and there's evidence, archaeological evidence, and it's an oral history,
mm-hmm.
right? So that being able to dig into the oral history is um, something that people are still doing. But as time goes by, that's why it's really important that people now are gleaning as much from the elders as they can, right?
Yeah. The
So
I guess like from what you describe, and I was there once in like 1996. I mean, it seemed to be a very fascinating like mix of cultures Hawaii because obviously you have the native culture, you've got the European based culture, you've got the Asian culture, you've got African Americans who I'm sure are there, like other like so. I mean, but I guess I'm asking: is my perception accurate that you've got just this big rich mix of all these different cultures in Hawaii?
it's kind of like Brooklyn.
Oh, okay.
There's a lot of different cultures.
Uh huh.
Yeah, and people rejoice and keep try to keep their culture going, but they also live with everybody else and enjoy other people's cultures and benefits
Hmm.
of the other cultures.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I find that the like even like your connection to cultures sometimes like my family, my grandfather was Italian, and like my mother, that was her father, didn't really teach us anything about food. Then it was me who like went to Italy and discovered pesto and has been all over. So like I reconnected with the Italian roots, and I've seen even like my wife, she immigrated here to the U.S. from Taiwan, and we have kids who are mixed, and my daughter became more interested in her heritage when she was like a senior in high school. But like I don't know, it seems interesting that you have both the roots, but then you are creating like a new future as well as like they kind of you get this like kind of fusion of things.
Right. Well, there was a really big push for assimilation in the US.
Hmm.
And here in Hawaii too, it was that Hawaiians weren't allowed to do a lot of to practice a lot of
Right.
parts of their culture. But then they're across the U.S. and Alaska, all over, there is like a valuing cultures. At I think like around 40 years ago, 45 years
Hmm.
ago, that started happening. So I don't know how old you are, but
I'm
when,
53.
yeah. So I mean, people came to America and they wanted to fit in, and they had to speak English and to succeed. So your parents having you to be whatever was considered American was for your survival,
Hmm.
and that's a good thing. And um, but nowadays, people get a lot of their enjoyment and identity and meaning from life from their identity in from the culture of their ancestors. So that's becoming more valued by the general public nowadays,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, so that's a good thing, because it's important to people. It's not important to everybody,
Mm.
and so they don't have to do it if they don't want to do it.
Right.
But if it is important to them, then they're respected. Before
Yeah.
they weren't respected.
Right.
And also, I mean, communication is really important. It's really important to be able to speak and be understood and to understand when someone else is speaking to you. So if you're coming from a place that has a different language than English to the United States, English is like king in the United States. And, you know, in some countries, people are more multilingual, right? But we're very English oriented, but in some places now, Spanish language is more, they're bilingual, and that works for some communities. And here in Hawaii, now people are speaking Hawaiian more just in public, you
Hmm.
know, in the airport, and
Wow.
yeah, so that's a really good thing. Yeah, can I bring us back to our education program,
Of
because
course.
the program that we have made available to the public, the Kuai online sea school, has a Kanaka connection. And in that, it talks about how people got to the islands. Like you asked me before, and I didn't quite finish that
Hmm.
answer. They came over by their canoe.
Hmm.
That's how they got
Wow.
here. They sailed over. They used the stars to navigate, and the waves and the sun and moon. They practiced kilo, what I was talking about earlier. They could understand nature. The birds, if birds come, if they see certain birds, and the birds, they know they're getting close to the land, or you know, that's how they got here. And they brought plants with them, and they brought animals with them, and they created a sustainable world with what they brought with them, because these islands didn't have a whole lot on them
Hmm.
either, but
Really.
they did have water. And
Mm.
so as long as they had water, and they had fish, they had other sea critters,
Mm.
you know, and those the Polynesians, Hawaiians, Tahitians, they knew how to get their food from
Mm.
the environment. So yeah, so it talks about how the people came to these islands, and I hope that people do get curious about our sea school. If you're at all interested in Hawaii, even if you're at, people who are grown-ups seem to really like the sea school too. Maybe not the teenagers, but the people, the
Yeah.
older
Teens like anything.
and the kids and the little kids really like it, because it's a great way to learn about Hawaii and about the land and the history and the animals.
Yeah. Are there a certain is the sea life around one island basically the same as the sea life around the other islands, or can they be very different?
It's basically the same, but there are
Hmm.
differences. There's differences even from one side of the island to the other. Yeah.
Um, and do you scuba dive or snorkel or anything like that?
I scuba, but I mostly snorkel.
Okay. What kind of like have you had any encounters with something that was particularly memorable or profound for you?
Well, uh, there's a little turtle named Ms. Mermaid, and she's she. I was able to name her because, or actually, our community, our Reef Guardians community, named it after me, because I found it, and they were like Ms. Mermaid,
Hmm.
because she's a Honu ea, which is a hawksbill sea turtle, and she was the 43rd hawksbill turtle who was identified here in Kauai waters since 1998.
Wow,
The 43rd since 1998,
that does not sound like a lot.
right? Very
Yeah.
rare. And then the next one, our board president, Tom Woods, he found the next one, number 44.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and sometimes the kids see them. Sometimes since we follow them, we take pictures. The kids are trained in how to collect data of different animals, and
Mm.
so we take pictures of the sides of their heads, their fins, top of their heads, and we send it in. There's an organization that keeps track of them, and then they'll say, "Oh, well, that's that turtle," or "Oh, this is a newly seen turtle," so you can name it
Wow,
like that.
I've never seen a turtle in the certainly in the water, but anything like the big sea-based turtles, I've never seen anything like that. Have you seen like sharks or rays or stuff like that?
Oh yeah, we see sharks and
Hmm.
we see rays a lot. Especially we see the stingrays that are we call them hihimanu. They're eagle rays. And if you look at our logo, actually our logo,
Oh
it
yeah,
appears it could be perceived as two waves, but it could also be perceived as the ray
yeah. Hmm.
with its tail.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So
Okay,
that's like our amakua. And amakua
uh,
is like our spirit guide. Our
okay. Stingrays seem like almost like they seem like some kind of like higher form of life, or like they're very, I don't know, they look to me like very mysterious.
the rays in Polynesian culture are seen as protectors. So
Okay.
that's why,
Is
it's a
there a
good
reason
good
why they
symbol.
are they?
If you find out, would you tell me? I don't know the depth of that answer.
No, no. You mean they save somebody sometime, or maybe that like people like dolphins, or so this is totally uncharted territory for me. So I really I don't have anything much to offer, just lots of questions. So I apologize because we don't have much sea life here or much life of anything. We know a lot. We have a lot of rats. We have a lot of squirrels. We have a lot of pigeons. There's not
There's
much else in New York.
and there's other birds, aren't there? Like some kind of
There's a
hawks or
there's some hawks, and you might, I mean, there are crows. I mean, there are other things you'll see, but like that's what dominates the landscape here.
yeah, yeah. Well,
But people, people freak out if they do see like dolphins in the water, which doesn't necessarily happen in like the East River, but not too far away, like in Coney Island or Rockaway Beach, which is still part of like New York City. I think that people see that. So, is it a good thing when we're seeing like I'll notice posts like New York City, Manhattan is an island, and I live in Brooklyn. Brooklyn is an island. It's on Long Island. So there is a lot of exposure to the sea, and I've noticed, at least on Instagram, lots of pictures and videos of like whales and dolphins, and I don't know if there is actually more of it, or people now everybody has a camera so they capture it. But if you're seeing sea life like close in, is that a good thing or is it not a good thing?
it's a good thing unless they're beaching,
Right, right, yeah, but
right?
just in general, it doesn't mean there's nothing like that's a good thing. It means there's more and more out there.
I don't know what it means
Uh,
because I don't study that area,
oh, okay, all right,
but I would imagine that it would be good. It's their world, and
yeah,
b- whales come very close to shore here, and dolphins
yeah.
very close to shore.
I feel like that's also just like got to be such a. I saw them when I went up to Alaska. We saw whales, but not too close, but we did see them, and that's like just stunning, breathtaking. So, wow. Well, we my would like to take my family. We'd like to return to go. Is it okay for people to go to Hawaii on vacation now, or I mean, like you talk about like Maui still kind of recovering, but it, I think
It's good to
things
come
are,
to Hawaii. It's good to
yeah,
come to Hawaii, especially a person like you who's really interested and respectful and wants to your children to experience other
yeah,
places and yeah, appreciate other places and enjoy themselves in beautiful place.
yeah.
Yeah.
The now when people come, like I guess you said you can fly. There's no like ferries or anything between the islands or anything. It doesn't sound like.
There's a ferry you could go from Maui to Lanai.
Uh-huh. But that's it. It's interesting that there isn't any like kind of like interconnected system for each of the islands.
They're
Is that
tried to
deliberate?
be. No, they're tried
Uh,
to be, but people don't want it.
okay, really?
No, because it's dangerous to do that.
In what way?
Dangerous for a lot of reasons why. Um, it could bring invasive species.
From one island to another
Hmm.
between the Hawaiian Islands?
Hmm.
Okay.
It could also promote, it would be more cars and more people would be like sleeping in their cars because they bring their cars over and then
Mm.
rather than staying in hotels. And that
Oh.
people are concerned about that. People are concerned about theft.
Mm-hmm.
That there was an incident that I heard of that some people came over with a truck and filled up their truck with rocks from a stream on Maui to take back to Oahu to sell. So,
Oh
there's
wow.
all kinds of vulnerabilities, and you just don't, you whenever we think about certain systems, there's always considerations beyond just that what you're trying to make happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's always other consequences,
Yeah.
right? So that's it, it's you have to really back up and back up to see the consequences before you introduce something that could be really impactful.
Okay. Interesting. That's yeah. I'd never thought of that. That's wow. Okay. All right. Well, if we come, we'll be prepared to fly between islands. Are there a lot of seaplanes? Are those
No,
more prevalent?
no
Really?
seaplanes. It's
Wow.
not like
Okay.
Alaska.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Okay. So, but besides, you said you go to the Himalaya. You've gone to Tibet and Himalayas. What other places have you traveled to?
Well, I just came back from Africa.
Uh huh.
I went to Africa.
Uh huh.
It,
That sounds like an amazing trip.
it was all about the animals.
Uh huh. I
Yeah,
bet.
yeah. I've
What?
never been there before.
huh. And where did you go?
I went to Rwanda or Rwanda. They call it
Uh huh.
Rwanda. And
Okay.
I went to South Africa.
Uh huh.
Yeah, it was really amazing to see those animals in their own environment. Elephants and giraffes and lions and leopards and zebras. They call them zebra.
Oh. Wow.
Ostriches.
Hmm.
Just all
Oh wow.
amazing animals. And to just buffalo herds, like hundreds and hundreds of them crossing the road. Just sit there and watch them.
It would seem that somebody like yourself, who's so kind of connected to nature, this would be a different setting, but it would be almost like your language.
Oh yeah,
So
it was fantastic.
yeah. Wow.
Yeah, it's really great.
Well, and I think remember probably I think texting with you about doing this, and I think you were probably getting ready to go
Yeah,
away. So
yeah, I was
I
getting ready to go.
yeah
I
I
was really
you
busy then.
I know, and I was looking at my text message, and I think we've been talking about doing this since like April. So I should use this opportunity before we wrap up just to say thank you for, indulging me in the periodic text messages about, are you free? Can we do this? Can we do this? Because I know you're very busy, and you kind of this has been a real privilege to learn so much and talk with you.
Aw, aw, thank you. Oh, it's a
So
privilege to be able to share and to
yeah,
meet you. Thank you for your work.
yeah. Well, thanks. It's good to every conversation that I've had has been just I don't know, it's been so fascinating to kind of just learn about all these different lives, and to me, I think that what I hope like anybody could take away is more there are I think every place has its ups and its downs, and you have you have a beautiful setting, but you have challenges as well that you have to deal with, and some of the positives can create their own negatives as well, as you've alluded to. But I think to me, I love New York City, and I don't think I'd want to live anyplace else. But it's good to be able to put yourself in the shoes of other people in other areas, and think about their lives and their challenges, and understand that those challenges and those successes and everything is as important to them as it is to you. And if we can all kind of understand that better, I think we can all coexist and work together better. That's the hope.
Yeah. To understand someone, to show understanding, that's a gift.
Yeah, yeah. So, but I guess with that, we should probably wrap up. It's getting particularly late here in in New York. Uh,
Aw.
so, but before we wrap up, can I ask what gives you hope at the end of the day?
Oh, the kids. The kids are our future. It's all about the kids.
Yeah, yeah. It sounds like you're making a big impact on them.
Hope so.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, Robin, thank you very much. I wish I could say it in Hawaiian, but don't. How do you say thank you in Hawaiian?
Mahalo.
Mahalo. Okay. Mahalo. um, I've really enjoyed this, and I hope maybe we can meet sometime. Hopefully, I can at least get my family out to Hawaii.
Yeah, come to Hawaii. I'm sure you'll be in touch.
Yeah.
But in the
Yeah.
meantime, go on reefguardians.org and check out those learning tools, and you can immerse yourself in that.
Yeah. We'll be ready to go, and we hit the ground.
Yeah.
So, all right.
Okay.
Well,
Thank
thank you,
you.
and thank you to all the listeners and viewers out there. May you go out and explore our country with curiosity, respect, compassion, and humility. All right. Take care, Robin. Thank you.
Aloha.